Admiral, in your new book, 2054, you look ahead a long way towards the future of warfare. I want to bring the horizon back to a year from now because the Congress just gave Ukraine $60 billion. They will be voting on it today. Senator Cotton just said it's going to pass with 75 votes. I'm very glad it's going to pass. What difference will that make? What do you expect the war in Ukraine to look like a year from now?
Hey, can I start by just saying Congress has done the right thing here by 75%. In other words, the House of Representatives passed this roughly 300 to 100, and the Senate is going to pass it 75 to 25. I'm not good at math, but that sounds like 75% approval rating for going forward and supporting an ally who's willing to fight and die if we give them the tools. So I don't often say this, but well done, House of Representatives, well done, Senate, and well done, President, when he signs it. This is government working, in my view. How this will look in a year is very different than if we had decided not to do this. And what will be on the battlefield that'll make a difference will be a better air defense, particularly to protect the critical infrastructure of Ukraine, much more ammunition, and that's going to ramp up as the year goes on. F-16s will be operating in numbers, probably 45 of them by that time. ATACMS, the long-range surface-to-surface missiles, will be striking Crimea. Drones purchased by Ukraine, built by Ukraine in many cases, better cyber, all of that. And I'll conclude with this. Every dollar spent on that, of every dollar spent on that, Hugh, 90% of those dollars are coming right back to the U.S. defense industrial base. This is a classic win-win-win.
Now, Admiral, I'm cautioning, I supported the bill, but I'm cautioning people, this does not mean a breakout of Ukraine. I think we are in a static situation. Do you agree with me?
I do. And in one sense, that's tragic because it means that Vladimir Putin will remain in possession of, let's call it 15% of the landmass of Ukraine. But on the other hand, Hugh, and I think this is where you're going and many other smart observers, this keeps Ukraine in the fight at a level that permits them to negotiate with Russia. And it also discourages Putin and encourages him to negotiate. I think the outcome of this, back to where will we be in a year, I don't think it'll be triumphant Ukraine, but I think it could be a negotiated outcome that much more favors Ukraine than it would have without this agreement.
No, Admiral, there's a story this morning in the Times of Israel that satellite images show tent compound under construction in Khan Yunis ahead of possible Rafah operation. I expect Rafah to be entered within 2 weeks. My question is, what did you make of the Israeli counterstrike? What did that say to you as the person who has operated at that kind of level where messages get sent when we can't see what the message is?
That message was very cleverly and operationally skillfully delivered. And here's the message. Iran, we know where your air defenses are. We know where your bases are. We can put drones overhead them anytime we want to. I've said this before, but this was like a burglar breaking into your house, walking up to the safe that contains your most precious commodities. And instead of blowing it up or stealing it, the thief puts a yellow sticky on it that says, "I'll be back, ... anytime I want." I think that's a very clever signal that doesn't escalate. It gave Iran the chance to back down, which they did, and it preserved a very fragile peace in the Middle East. I thought it was signal sent, signal delivered, and I think it sent a shiver up the spine of the Iranian mullahs.
Now, I want to ask, Admiral, just whether you know of, there are reports, they are unconfirmed, that the State Department is preparing to sanction a unit in the IDF. I don't know that that's ever happened to an ally before. In your vast memory of what has happened in the history of warfare, have we ever sanctioned an allied unit?
Not to my knowledge, and it would be shocking to the Israeli military, which counts on us for strong support across the board. I think it would be a very difficult situation on both sides of the alliance if that were to occur. I haven't dug into the details of this one, Hugh. It bears really looking at facts before leaping to judgment, but certainly it is correct to say, in my experience, unheard of, and the repercussions of doing so, whether warranted or not, are going to be long felt.
Yeah, I don't know that it's going to happen. It seemed to me to be so out of left field that it might be somebody leaking at the State Department in an attempt to bring pressure to bear on the Israelis. But I sure hope Secretary Blinken doesn't do that. I want to close this way, Admiral. We're a little pressed for time this morning. People forget you were an administrator of a university in one of your many lives. What would you be doing if you were president of Columbia right now?
Well, I'll tell you what I'd be doing if I were the dean of the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy at Tufts University, which I was. Tufts has been roiled with protests, along with about a dozen other major universities. I would be saying to my students, you are free to protest within the boundaries and the rules which I am establishing as the dean, as the university. That includes no hate speech, no chanting of October 7th, let's do it again. No use of symbols that are dramatically hate speech oriented against Jewish populations. And I would say to the students, if you violate those, this is not a warning and pat you on the head situation. This is a step one, you're suspended, we'll deactivate your school identification card. Anything you have in the hopper, your graduation, your papers, your course are suspended. And step two, if you do it again, you're expelled. And by the way, you get expelled from Tufts University. Good luck getting into another institution of higher education. I think it's time to really
Last
crack
question,
down.
Admiral. If you had faculty members who are, faculty are tenured, and we know how strong tenure is, and you and I both appreciate tenure. I'm tenured. It's to protect the speech. But what would you do to a tenured member of the faculty who participated in anti-Semitic hate speech?
Bring them in and tell them exactly the same thing I said to the students. Tenure does not protect you from use of hate speech. And hate speech is not complicated to detect. When you say from the river to the sea, all of Palestine will be free, that's translation. The state of Israel must be destroyed and the Jewish population destroyed. That's hate speech, in my view.
I'm in complete agreement with Admiral Stav, and I hope other administrators out there are listening to him. He's been there and he's done that, and I hope they do as well. Admiral Stavridis, his new book, 2054. Go and get it. He and Mr. Ackerman, Elliot Ackerman, have written another bestseller on the future of warfare, 2054.